Hey everyone, Jay here again, and we're back with another episode of Cafe Verite, that look behind the scenes of what happens here at Spro Coffee in Hamden, here in Baltimore. And we're back again making more drinks. Our first drink today is going to be an iced vanilla latte. And as you can see, we've got the coffee, and we also got house coffee with 2 vanilla iced lattes. And we've got our to-go cup of ice, fully filled with ice. Add some of the vanilla syrup that we make in-house. And it's a pretty warm day today because, as you can see, I put my cap back on, my cook's cap, and I'm always wearing it when it's pretty hot. That helps to keep the sweat down because it does get hot behind the bar.
Maple, vanilla, and honey.
So we got another iced vanilla latte. Guest comes in asking, what kind of flavors do we have, and like I wanted to let you hear that. We have vanilla, caramel, maple, and mocha. So we've got a few syrups. With the exception of the mocha, we make everything in-house. We want to make everything as we possibly can in-house, mainly so that we know the origin and the quality of each product. So there we go. We've got 2 lattes. And getting the milks ready. As you can see, I'm grinding the coffee. A lot of newer baristas like the doserless grinders. I'm not a big fan of them. They're great. I mean, they're good grinders. They can work really well. But what I enjoy, with the doser grinders that have these dosing hoppers, that I can do like I did there. Step away, grind coffee. I don't have to tend to it. And I think that makes for better and more efficient workflow. So as you can see, steam the milk, and if you've heard of previous episodes, and I've talked about this before, we like to steam our milk for iced drinks because it increases the sweetness naturally of the milk, as well as giving texture. And I think that texture and mouthfeel just is really a wonderful way to experience an iced latte. And then as you can see here, drinks on, pulling the shot directly on top of the coffee, on top of the milk, so that it flows through, and that'll give us a nice coloration. As you can see, I'm going to stir it here, and look at that. Nice brown body and a white foamy top. I think that's just wonderful, and especially now that we're using our sippy lids, you really get that foaminess and texture. And then we'll cap it off here to make sure that the volume is good. All right, looking good, looking good. That's what we want to see. So the one's a little bit darker, that's the one that has the vanilla syrup. And in this particular case, the vanilla syrup, we're using the Demerara sugar, which creates a darker, deeper brown sugar. Like sometimes if you're using pure cane sugar, it's going to run relatively clear. But when you actually use Demerara or turbinado type sugars, it does color the simple syrup a bit, which is fine. There's especially when you're using a brown ingredient like coffee, it doesn't really make that big of a difference.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry.
All right, so now we're moving on with a little bit of cold brew. As you can hear, we get guests that come in from all over the country, from different parts of the world as well, and so it's always a great time to talk to them and listen to where they're from. And in cases like this, we have friends all over the world. Like in this particular case, she came from Salt Lake City, and of course, one of my good friends, John Piquet from Cafe Verite, is there. And like you heard in the video here, I do think he's one of the best operators in America. I mean, he's truly one of the mad scientists of coffee, where he's really focused on quality and really delivering a wonderful experience to his guests. I've been there once to his shop. It's a beautiful little space. I mean, really simple, but he focuses with high quality equipment, high quality coffee. Just beautiful stuff. Very, 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 very worth the time if you happen to go to Salt Lake City. As you can see here, cold brew. We already have it prepared. It's all ready to go. It's really simple to make. A little bit of cream. I tend to go a little bit light on the cream. If you look at that, it's more brown than it is white. Mainly because I think that if we put we can always add more cream and milk. We can always add more of that. It's very difficult to reduce it, right? So I add a little bit. If the guest wants more, happy to do more. But if not, then let them roll with it. I think it makes for a nice presentation. If you really want to creamy, of course, happy to do that as well. You know, we're not that kind of place where we're all about, you must take it a certain way. I think that's a very myopic and narrow-minded approach to coffee. Here we want to accommodate your desires. You know, we want you to enjoy the experience. And I think really part of that is having coffee the way you feel most comfortable. And part of that is going to be offering, you know, milk or dairy or cream and sugar. And as you can see, one of the things that we get to do is that I find to be the most rewarding part of the experience is that we get, when it's not terribly busy, we get the chance to really chat with our guests and just learn about them and learn about who they are, where they're from, what their interests are. Sometimes their hopes, their dreams, their problems. You know, all kinds of interesting people that come through the doors, and we get to learn a lot about them. And that to me is really the most wonderful part of this whole coffee shop experience. All right, so next coming up, we've got another guest coming in, and she's taking a look at our menu and wants to order a couple things. They want some espresso and iced coffee and our Ortiz 1800, which is a really wonderful single origin coffee that we have from Costa Rica. And we keep those in our little jars here for cup ring service, and we'll measure those and grind those to order. So for our coffee, we are using it at 24 grams for the serving. And that gives us a 12 ounce brew. And we use Avid Clever. And I like this Avid Clever because I really like the body and development that happens in the brewing process, because it's a full immersion brew for the first 3 minutes. And I think that really gets a lot of wonderful development out of the coffee. We're going to use a fairly coarser grind than we would for a pour over. So if we're using a pour over distinctly in the medium grind area, for the Avid, we're moving to medium coarse, right? And mainly because that helps to retard the extraction process. Because, you know, the finer your coffee, the more it will extract, right? And so you grind coarser to inhibit the extraction, you know. And so when you're doing things like full immersion, like we're doing here, where the water and the coffee are in contact for 3 minutes, we want to slow that down a little bit. If we use the same grind, let's say for pour over or even for AeroPress, which is much finer, then you're going to get a lot more extraction. You get a little bit more of the bitters. You get over extraction out of it. So it's just a way of controlling the rate of extraction, right? Especially since it's 3 minutes. So it's 3 minutes, and then we're going to drop it on the cup when it's ready. So as you can see, get the cup prepared and moved over to get the drink that we're making. A little bit of a different angle here, a little bit closer so you can get a better shot from the La Marzocco Linea 2 group. This is actually what they call a 2AV, which has automatic volumetric dosing. So you can program this machine to dispense X amount of water and then stop. We don't use it that way. We use the manual override switches to brew the coffee, to order, and we decide when it stops. And, you know, we're looking for certain telltales in the espresso for us to determine when it has reached its optimum point. And this shot looks like it's reaching its optimum point. Oh, there we go. Good. All right, good. So as you can see, I just dumped out the coffee from the Avid Clever, and so that Ortiz 1800 is done. And now we're moving on with a Cafe Latte. So get that puck cleared out, knock it out, and then I do a rinse. What I do is, as you notice, I'm keeping even though I've rinsed out the basket, I'm keeping the portafilter over the drip tray, and I actually put it back inside the bayonet mount of the group head, because I want to let that water, whatever water's in there, flow out. Now, even if you do a really quick rinse, you think that you just sloshed it out, there's always going to be water inside the portafilter, so you always want to let that drip. Otherwise, if you try to take it to the grinder, you're going to drip it on the countertop, and you're going to drip it on the bottom of the grinder, and you're going to make yourself a mess that you have to clean. And so that cleaning really means that it just gets in the way of your efficiency. It slows you down just a little bit. So I try to do it this way to keep everything rolling. As you can see, pulling the shot on the group head closest to us for this cappuccino. No, this is a latte. For the latte. And then now we're steaming the milk. And as you notice, I'm using both hands, and I'm switching off, right? So I'm actually feeling with the left hand while it was going the temperature as it's rising. There's a point where I can no longer hold it, and that's when I'll usually let go and grab the handle with the right hand, and then use the fingers of my left hand just to feel the final point. So really bring it to about 170 degrees. All right, it's out there again. Now we got vanilla iced latte, cold brew, and a matcha latte. So it's getting a little bit more complicated today. Got a few drinks here, got 3 drinks here. And it's things like this that I find as a barista to be quite challenging and rather enjoyable with the challenge, because you've got multiple drinks to put together, and now you have to kind of figure out how do we make them all so that they deliver to the guest at the same time. We want them to finish at the same time. We don't really want to finish one drink and then start the next and then let the first drink wait, because there's always going to be some level of not necessarily spoiling, but especially like ice drink, the more that the ice melts, the more it dilutes the drink. And so if you're holding the drinks if you're holding one drink while you're finishing another, then it doesn't. To me, it impacts the quality a little bit, and we don't want to do that. So the question is, how do you plan your work so that you can finish them all at the same time? And as you can see here, I'm starting out with the matcha latte. I've got two of the cups ready to go with a little bit of ice in them. So the matcha latte, we're using a matcha tea from Eastern Japan. Really, really lovely tea, beautifully ground, and you have to sift the tea to make sure there's no clumping. That's going to give you the best, the most luxuriant mouthfeel when you're using the whisk. So after dosing out the amount of coffee, the amount of matcha we're going to use, then I'm running it through the sieve, pushing it through the sieve or the mesh to make all of the texture even, right? All right, that's done. Now we're going to add a little bit of hot water to it just to hydrate. And then I'm going to use the brush, and we're going to just essentially hydrate the tea. And then now we're going to add a little bit with the action. And now I'm just making sure that every part of the matcha has been hydrated and is now liquid. Now we're going to add a little bit more water, a little bit more, looking for the right consistency. Now, back and forth in basically a W-shaped motion to froth the tea, right? That's a really important part of the matcha, is the frothing. I kind of got this idea from, this approach from several places. I went to a couple places in Tokyo several years ago where I really was paying attention to what they're doing. I think one of them is called Ippudo. That's actually from Kyoto, but they have a place in Ginza now. And then there's a place, a matcha, what's it called? Matcha House. There's a matcha place that I went to all the way out kind of in the outskirts of the city. For those of you who are anime fans, Studio Ghibli is actually across the street from this place. And it's a little tiny matcha shop, really focused on making iced matchas, like matcha lattes like we're making here. And so I went there, and then I also went to the Sakurai tea experience, that if you're in Tokyo and you want really to get into Japanese green tea in a way that's unlike most anywhere that you might see, the Sakurai tea experience is well worth the visit. I mean, actually, all 3 of those places, if you want to learn more about or experience more about Japanese teas, those are great places to go when you're in Tokyo. So as you can see, I was taking the milk, we finished up the iced coffees and took the milk, put it in a pitcher, and now we're going to steam it. Again, like with the lattes, the coffee lattes, we're gonna steam the milk. Oh, and this is a hot matcha latte. Never mind. So in the hot matcha latte, after we spin it up, we steam up the milk, and then now we're gonna pour it over and see if we can get a pattern out of it. Was I able to get a pattern? That's a good question. Yeah, a little bit, not so pretty. Sorry about that. So now stir up the cold brews. Make sure everything's nicely mixed up. So as you see, trying to finish everything together, bring them together, and then now we're sending them out. All right, next up is Americano. And so this guest wants an Americano, but wants it a little bit different size. And so this is one of the things where at Spro, we typically have one size per drink. So every drink has its own particular size. The actual exception to this rule is the Americano. The Americano, and if you're not familiar, the Americano is basically double shot of espresso floated on top of hot water. And we could have gone with the whole, Americano's only one size and just stayed with the 12 ounce, but really that just didn't really fit, my personal belief. Really, it's more like if we can do it, we'll do it. Right? Now, here's the thing. So, we'll do the Americano in both an 8-ounce cup that you can see on the left and the 12-ounce cup that we normally do on the right. And it's always, and both ways are an Americano. And why don't we do that for, let's say, a cappuccino? Why can't you get a 12-ounce cappuccino? Well, because in that case, those drinks, like cappuccino, we have a very specific way of doing it. So the cappuccino is really something we follow more of the rule of thirds. So we want to have an equivalent amount of coffee to milk and foam, right? Whereas latte is mostly milk. So there's really no way for us we could probably make a cappuccino in those ratios for 12 ounce, but then then we start adding, maybe 4 shots of espresso, and it gets more expensive that way. So you could certainly have it if you want. But for the most part, the Americano is the one that we do offer variations on. Plus, I really enjoyed one of my personal favorite drinks is a 6-ounce Americano, actually with a little bit of cream and sugar. Coming from my days in Seattle, hanging out at Heinz Public Market Coffee, where that would be kind of my morning drink. Like at 6:30 in the morning, sitting in the big bay window at Heinz, drinking a 6-ounce Americano with maybe a donut, like a chocolate donut. Oh, that's really, really a special way to enjoy Americano. All right, so now we've got our drinks. We're serving our drinks. And I'm not sure exactly what's happening at the moment. Talking to guests, and that's the thing. You just I personally tend to get lost sometimes when talking with our guests, because I really enjoy that interaction. And then I forget what I'm doing. I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do next? So I really have to be careful. Oh, that's right. This one, that's what it said earlier. It said earlier that it didn't look nice. And what happened was that, and this is one of the most critical things of being a barista, is that you have to be able to determine on the fly at the moment whether or not that shot is worthy of drinking and representative of what we want at Spro. And so in that moment, I was looking at the shot, the way it was developing. I just wasn't happy with it. It just wasn't nice. Here's a guest that came in. I believe it was her first time there, and I didn't want to offer her something that was subpar. So as I saw the shot coming out, I immediately went to do the second shot for her drink, and then use that one, because that one was much better. And that's the thing. Sometimes you run into little problems where maybe that one shot you just made a mistake on somewhere along the way. So just start again, and give the guest the best possible quality that we possibly can. And that's something that as a barista, I'm always watching for in the shots, in every step of the process, really. How are we steaming the milk? Is the milk of good quality? Is the bubbles satisfactory? Is the shot looking great? And it's really important that the shot looks great, because most of our drinks are very simple, like latte, milk, coffee, Americano, milk, coffee, cappuccino, milk, coffee. We're not really talking about, lots of different flavors layering over and, hiding or obscuring the other flavors. So you really have to make sure that your coffee's on the money, or that everything is on the money, so that it tastes as best as it possibly can be, and is a great representation of what you do. Ooh, it's a little bit warm, as you can see there. Time for an iced latte. I guess, the heat, this is really the time of year when, like, wearing these masks for COVID is the more challenging, because it does get quite warm, and the mask is a little bit, troubling to wear. What for me personally, like, I'm starting to sweat at the very top of the mask, on the sides, at the tops of the cheeks, and that just, I don't know, that for some reason that kind of irritates me a little bit. It bothers a little bit. All right, so now we're doing iced latte and getting everything ready. So as you can see, chatting with the guest, listening to what they have to say, getting a little bit distracted. But as you can see, we're getting the milk ready. And they're going to steam that up, get the shot prepared, drying out the portafilter. Now we're going to grind it. And so we use 21 grams of coffee for our shots. And as you can see, I'm not really weighing the scale. I mean, after doing this for, many years now, I kind of pretty much have the feel for how much we need. And it's really not just a matter of, like, feeling the weight, although I'm sure that's really part of it, but it's everything about it. So as I'm working, making the coffee, I'm really looking at the grind, feeling the grind, dosing it out, looking at how much we've dosed. Then as we move it around to distribute it or tamp it, I'm actually watching it and getting the feel for it. Especially even when you're putting it into the portafilter, the way that it does the coffee bed press up against the dispersion screen in the group head, there's a feel to that. And there's a certain feeling that I'm actually looking for, that if it's missing, there could be a problem. If it's too hard, that could be a problem as well. So as you can see, we made the basket of coffee, prepared it, steamed the milk. Now we're pulling the shot directly into the cup. Always trying to do it in a consistent way for each drink, so that, we want the drinks to have a consistent way of being made, as well as a consistent way of tasting, so that you, as the guest, when you come in, you're going to have a nice experience, a consistent experience each time you come in. It may not necessarily be the exact same experience, meaning that maybe the flavor of the coffee has slightly varied from time to time, but generally speaking, it's a very consistent experience. That's really what we're aiming for. And now that we have a moment, time to clean up everything, rinse out knock out the pucks, rinse out the portafilters, wipe down the grinder, see if there's anything on the counter, rinse out the pitchers. Those of you who come in on Saturdays and the weekends, and when you visit with Sergio, you'll probably notice that he is using our pitcher rinser that's actually to the right of where I'm standing at the moment. During the weekdays, I tend not to use it, just because it's something that I would have to clean, and I'm not really wanting to clean that. All right, so next up is Thai tea. Thai tea. As you can see, Thai tea is something that we pre-make We actually use a pre-mixed Thai tea from a brand called Number One brand out of Thailand. One of my good friends, one of my old friends, Suk Chumbala, he turned me on to this tea mix, and yeah, it's been fantastic. People have been loving it. And the problem is, though, at the moment we're having, we still have some supply in this video, but we're running low on it. And right now, I think it's because of the pandemic and the whole way that international shipping is being done, is that there's really no Thai tea supply available at the moment, in Baltimore at least. And you can see there's our little technique for for throwing away our milk jugs. Just heat it up and then compress it. It's a really simple way to do it. I'm always excited to do it for some reason. It's like maybe the highlight of my day, maybe. And then time to brush everything down and get everything clean. That's the thing about doing this kind of work, is that it's always a battle. But the battle really is about getting to this point, getting at your station and everything in order, ready to go. Like this time, I was just almost ran out of cold cups, but we got another sleeve ready to go. What you don't really want to do is run out of these cold cups and ice in the middle of a rush. When people are there, then you have to run, because in our facility, all of our dry storage as well as the ice making is downstairs in the kitchen. So it just interrupts the flow and creates unnecessary delay for the guest. And as you can see, it's pretty hot because, trying to drink water, trying to keep hydrated. I must say that sometimes it is quite difficult inside the shop during the summer times on certain days. And now we've got our cold brew with milk and sugar. And you may notice that is a free glass bottle. And free is a type of non-alcoholic wine. And we're not using wine for that. I mean, actually, you're thinking about it, using that non-alcoholic wine could make a nice flavor sweetener to it, latte. Maybe we'll have to try that sometime. But that is just, I broke our regular glass for the simple syrup the other day, and so actually probably earlier this day, and so I had to improvise, and we had an extra one of these bottles lying around the shop, so I just used that for the simple syrup. All right, so that's all ready to go. Cap it up. Make sure that the bottom of the cup is dry. And then off to the guest. Next up is Quadruple Vietnamese coffees. Oh, my gosh. If you see my video, My Despised Vietnamese Coffee, you'll know that this is the one that I don't want to make. But make it I must, because it's really a great drink and very popular with a lot of our guests, especially when it gets warm. And then some days people come in and they're like, oh, like in here, this case, we need 4 of them. Oh my, 4 of them. Great. Great. Thank you very much. The difficult part when it comes to 4 or more than 2 is that we really only have 2 of the Caffe fins, or the fin cafes, which are these metal brewers that we use to make the traditional Café Suada, which is the Vietnamese iced coffee. And so, as you'll see here in this segment of our video, I've got to brew these 2 coffees and then turn them around as quick as possible and start the new ones again. And, the difficult part is that for the people that are having the second round, I mean, it's going to be a good almost 10 minutes they're going to have to wait, probably, because it just takes... It's just a slow process. This part of the thing that troubles me, not troubles me, but part of the reason why it rated as my least favorite drink to make is because of the time. It does take, a long time for it to drip brew. As you can see, we take the coffee, and for this particular coffee, we're using 15 grams, and it's a fairly medium grind. And you're putting the fin, and the fin has this metal plate that you use as a compression tool. So you actually compress the coffee bed slightly inside the fin, which creates more resistance. So it also slows down the brew. So as you can see, the dripping is very slow. It's very deliberate, and it just takes more time. Now for this coffee, we actually use our Night Watch, which is our dark roast coffee. And the Night Watch is an interesting coffee, I think, for the Vietnamese iced coffee, because it's a dark roast, which is not really a roast profile that we really do a lot of here at Spro. I mean, we have one dark roast coffee, and that's this one, and we use it for whenever somebody wants dark roast, and we use it for the Vietnamese style iced coffee. But we're using really nice quality coffee for this. This particular batch is a Uganda Mount Elgin AB coffee. That's from Uganda, of course, and really just a wonderful chocolatey, syrupy coffee normally, and then we take that to a little bit deeper roast. Now we're roasting it not to the point where you get the char. We don't want the char, because that charcoaly taste, the ashiness, that's just to be very unpleasant, and like you're really getting to the point where you're burning it. And we don't want to burn our coffee. We're just taking it to the deep roasting, getting a lot more of the roasty notes out of it. And I think that's pretty much where we're able to stop and get the results we're looking for. And what this does, this coffee has a nice, like I said, chocolatey character to it. So I believe we're getting a lot of that traditional taste, like you get from one of the big brands in Vietnam is the one called Trung Nguyen. And Trung Nguyen is a commercial brand that uses commercial level coffee with chocolate flavoring added to it that gives it that chocolatiness. I think that our coffee gives a natural chocolatiness to the Vietnamese iced coffee. That's very reminiscent of the way they do it in Vietnam, without having that artificial flavoring, and with using a really nice quality coffee, which is what's important for us. We don't want you to come in and we're not going to make a drink that we're going to buy cheap coffee for because it's supposed to be cheap. Another thing people use for this coffee, you'll see this in a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in America, is a lot of people use the Café du Monde out of New Orleans, and they use, again, more of a commercialized coffee, commercial quality coffee, and then they kind of augment that with the chicory. I don't really have too much opinion on chicory. I mean, I've been to Café du Monde a few times, enjoyed their bagels, their beignets, and enjoyed their beignets, and milky coffee is just a wonderful experience. But it wouldn't make sense for us to use anyone else's coffee for this drink. So we roasted and developed our own for it, which is our Night Watch. So as you can see, we're just kind of sitting here waiting. That's the name of the game when it comes to Vietnamese iced coffee. It's just a waiting game. Yep. Yeah, so if you haven't seen that video, it's on our Ono Coffee channel, and I think it's a lot of fun. We shot this video because mainly I had this, like I did say, it is one of my more when you come in, you order it from me, and I'm like, oh, I mean, usually I'm like, oh, secretly I'm like, oh no, just mainly because it takes this long, but it's really a tasty and enjoyable drink to have. All right, so it looks like we're finishing up here. So like I said, I've got to do another round. So I'm trying to make the turnaround as simple or as smooth and quickly as possible. So as I'm taking apart the Café fin, I'm actually rinsing it out to prepare for the next round. Yeah, we got enough volume in there to finish our drink. Now, it's very rare. Like, you may be asking, well, why don't you just get more of the fins? I mean, the fins really are not terribly expensive. Like, if you've ever found them at an Asian market, they're relatively inexpensive. Like, why don't just have more? And so, we do actually, at the roaster, we have a few more, but in the shop, we only have two because it's very rare for us to get orders over two at a time. So I never worried too much about it. But every blue moon, you might get a little bit like this where a group of friends come in and they want four. Now, there's also the thought of I could mimic. So in order, the thought is that, how do we make it more expedient? How do we make it faster for the guest? And, there's always the thought, well, why don't you use something else? And I've thought about that. Like, maybe we could use the sweetened condensed milk, mix it with double shot of espresso, maybe dilute it a little bit with some water to get that volume, and then over ice. I mean, that could be a way around it. And then a lot of other, and I know some other coffee shops that do this kind of drink. They will do like a cold brew of their coffee and use that as the base. And I guess we could try that as well. But really, the reason we don't do that, and we've never really explored those options or alternate methods of making this drink, is because really we wanted to bring the quote-unquote authentic method of brewing this coffee to our guests. So, it's meant to be an experience. It's meant to be something that and for most, when I say experience, do realize that most people that order the coffee don't stay to watch. They're just waiting, right? But if you wanted to watch and you're really into it, now you get to see how it's made. So you may be wondering, like, how is it made and why does it cost $5? Well, this is why, because we take the time to make it properly. And it does take a little bit of time, so, and hopefully people find I think people find the flavor to be to their liking, and hopefully they find it, by seeing this method, they can appreciate the drink more, that there is something that goes into it that's more than just, pouring it out of a jug or dispensing it out of a machine. And then the other side of it is also, from the barista's standpoint, is that, we want our baristas to have a wide range of experience with coffee and coffee brewing. And this is part of it. This becomes part of the barista's repertoire, that they didn't just make espresso drinks their entire time working for Spro, or like a lot of places, they make, like if you're a barista in a lot of these shops, they make espresso drinks. They make V60 pour-overs. And maybe they'll make their own cold brew. But really, that's the range of technical skills that most baristas will have in most coffee shops. Whereas the Spro barista really is exposed to a wide range of brewing, a wide range of coffee, and then, especially if they've been there for a while, if they've been with us for a while and they're kind of mastered what we do, they really are virtuosos of coffee. Like, any of our, like, quote-unquote legitimate baristas from Spro have gone on or can go on. They've either, they've gone on to do better things in coffee, to do more, and they have a deeper understanding of coffee than had they worked somewhere else. And that's something that we're proud to say and have that as part of, what we do, and that's important because it's one of those things where it's like, we don't want you to just be there slinging espresso shots. We want you to have a really wider and deeper appreciation for coffee because, on our bar, you're actually going to work with a variety of brewing methods, not just the Cafe Fin, but also, we do have pour-overs, we do have AeroPresses, French presses, and V60s and the Clever. So there's a lot for a barista at Spro to learn. Plus, we make most everything in-house, all of our syrups, most everything that goes into the drinks, with the exception of the dairy and the alternative milks, of course. But we pretty much make everything in-house and try to offer the best quality possible. All right, so we're still rolling along with this, the second set of Vietnamese iced coffees. They're rolling along looking They're rolling along smoothly, looking good. Just takes a little bit of time. But I hope you guys are enjoying this series of Cafe Verite videos. You know, the idea behind these videos was just to, you know, give you guys a glimpse of what we do behind the bar. Just, and then have the ability for us to talk about it in a kind of a stream of conscious way, where we're just kind of sharing, you know, what we do and how we think about things. Now, for the Cafe Fin, it's really a simple approach. You know, add the coffee, and then add the water, and then just let it flow through. And then we're adding water, and so we're looking to fill that 9-ounce glass with everything. All right, so next up is Stefanie's iced coffee, and Stefanie is one of our neighbors. She works over at the Wine Source, and she's the cheesemonger over there. So if you need anything cheese and charcuterie, go see Stefanie. She knows it all. And she comes in fairly regularly and usually gets a black iced coffee or black cold brew. And as you can see in the distance, since I didn't get to move the camera, you'll see what's happening. The cold brew ready to use has been finished. So I'm going to the concentrate and then now mixing up the concentrate into ready to use, which means I'm taking about a quart of the concentrate and adding a quart of cold water. So back again, checking the progress, and we're getting there. You know, we're almost done with that brew. Looking pretty good, and so we've got some. Now it's time to start getting the cups ready. So we're gonna get our cups to go, and we got another drink coming in, another cold brew. So now we're back, and all right, we're getting closer now. Getting closer finally. Checking on the volume level. Still got to add a little bit more water. We're not quite there yet. All right, so now we're getting ready with the ice, filling all the cups with ice. Because pretty much because we are brewing this coffee hot, and when we finally mix the coffee with the milk, it's going to be hot. So we're using the ice to cool it down. And so we're using half and half of the liquid with the ice to melt it, and that melting blends with the coffee to even out the strength, right? So it's actually a calculation of like higher strength dosage and brewing style, and a little bit of concentration in the brewing liquid that's poured over the ice that actually dilutes it slightly and brings it into just the right range for flavor that we're looking for. All right, so time to clear it off and get it ready. So as you can see, just trying to clear everything off again. One of the reasons I want to do this because when you dump the fin's contents we actually have a rinse basket or drain basket underneath the hot water tower there, so we can dump whatever we're brewing into it, and it'll hold the coffee grinds while letting the excess liquid drip away. But if I put the fins in there, then they start to get coated, and it just takes more to dig out. All right, so now that those fins are pulled away, now it's just time to give it a nice stir and then pour over ice. So, again, these drinks are all very simple. This is just, 2 ingredients, coffee, and then the sweetened condensed milk. And that's another thing. Sweetened condensed milk is a really important feature of this. Like if you taste the different brands, like say Carnation, Nestle, or Nestle's La Lechera, or the different other brands that are out there, there is a different flavor to them. There is a difference between them. So for our choice, we like to use the Longevity brand. I think that really brings a beautiful, milky, sweet character to the drink that is just so proper. I know. So the madness continues. We have 2 more guests that come in, and they want 2 more iced coffees, Vietnamese style. So I really think that these people have come in. They've seen the video on the Ono Coffee channel, and are just coming in to torture me. So here we go again. Now we're talking 6 of these basically in a row, just back to back. As you can see, now I've kind of run out. We normally portion into cups, but we've run through so many of them today that I've gone through all the pre-portions. So now it's about measuring them out and doing it to order. So again, for this one, 15 grams, we're grinding it into the grinder, putting it into the fin, and then doing it again. Now, I could have started the other one, but really, like I said before, we want to time our drinks to come together, and by holding this first one until the second one is ready, then we can time them more closely, and that's important because, I think everyone's had the experience where they've been out with their friends or family, and they go somewhere either to drink or to eat, and someone's order comes before everyone else's, and it's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit strange, it's a little bit uncomfortable even. And so we want to try to avoid that so that we don't just one drink isn't done, tremendously before another is ready, So for me, that's an important aspect of what we do. So that's why I was holding the drink, and now now that they're all prepared, now we can start them both together and just kind of brew them in unison. So there it is, rolling along. So if you have any questions about coffee brewing or the barista life or anything in particular, nothing in particular, but anything you'd like, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Be happy to talk to you about them, and or any suggestions for things you'd like to see in the future. Let us know. I'm happy to put that together as well, and it's a good time to do that. And of course, if you like this, please hit the like button. Subscribe. We'd love to have you subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers in 2021 this year. So if you can help us get to that point, that'd be really great. But of course, we'd like you to be subscribers because you enjoy the content that we're doing. So if you enjoy the content, please subscribe. If you don't enjoy the content, well, it doesn't make any sense to subscribe. Because if you subscribe and you don't like the content, you're just going to get more of this and you won't be happy. But also don't forget, we've also got our Cafe vlog series where you get to see more in-depth and up-close how we make each individual drink that we make at Spro. And so it includes pretty much everything on our menu at this point, and stuff that is seasonal or sometimes on the menu, or maybe not even on the menu at all, just something that is interesting and fun to try. But typically, most everything that we use in the show, in the vlogs, are on our menu and offered to our guests at some point during the year. And as you can see, there's always a lot of bantering with our guests, Like I said, it's always a fun time to talk with our guests and enjoy the time that we have to hear what they have to say, hear their stories, their adventures, hear about their families. It's really an interesting thing. Like over the years that we've been in business, we get to see our guests from time to time, throughout their lives. Some of them started off with us young, and now they're married and having children, and it's really kind of an interesting journey, and all of this is based around coffee, which is a fun and a wonderful thing. So here we are, we're getting closer to the time that we're going to be finished our iced coffee here. Time to get the ice prepared again. I mean, my goodness, you've seen on this video, three separate preparations of Vietnamese iced coffee. I think you're probably up to your ears in Vietnamese iced coffee by now. I certainly am. All right. Time to finish up. Yeah, by rinsing out the fin individually like this, it really helps to keep everything clean overall and easier to put away. Now, one of the difficult parts a little bit is that, I'm using hot water, so there's always the chance of scalding yourself. So I have to be a little bit careful in that respect. There we go. Good. Now we're pretty much done there. Just rinse out the last piece of that fin. And then it'll be time to get the spoon for a little stirring. And that's one of the things, like when you stir this, the sweetened condensed milk is so dense at the bottom that you really have to, there's a technique that you have to develop for stirring them together because it's so dense. If you try to go fast or back and forth too hard, it tends to cause the coffee to slosh around and spill out. So you have to kind of use the spoon to pull the milk away from the sides and slowly kind of incorporate it together, and then you can homogenize them and together, and then pour it out. And then now we cap. Make sure it's dry on the bottoms, and then off to the guest. There we go. Thanks for waiting. All right, then we have another guest coming in here. Wants to have something else. What's it going to be? That's always a... Okay, so we're going to have a light roasted coffee, 12 ounce. That's a pretty easy one. We're going to go with the light roasted coffee. So let's see what coffee. I believe we're going with the house coffee for this one. which are most of our guests, most of the consumer base here in Baltimore, our medium tends to be a lot lighter than most of them are drinking or used to drinking. So it's a safe bet. So this time I'm pulling the water straight from the tap. The water is programmed to be 96 degrees Celsius, which is about 198. Is that right? Right around 198, 200 Fahrenheit. So by the time it falls out, it's under 200 degrees. And go straight into that. And as you saw, we did 2-stage brewing there. A little bit for the wet, for the bloom, and then finished up with the final volume. And as you can see, I grabbed some water. You probably didn't see, but what I'm doing is I grabbed some water from the rinse sink so that I could have, something that won't scald my fingers. And then I could rinse out the fins a lot better. Clean them up, wipe them down, and then get them ready for the next time. Then put all the stuff away. Everything has a place. Everything has to go away. And that's an important thing when you're working in a coffee shop environment. You want to put everything away, like all those cups and everything. If you left them out because you're busy, you're trying to go faster, they just get in your way. And then by leaving stuff in the way, it just slows you down, right? So, I know at first when you're a new barista, it doesn't necessarily sound intuitive, but the more practice you do, the more you realize, oh yeah, we need everything as a home. Everything should go back to its home so that we can work more efficiently and actually work faster. And so here we are, just getting everything wiped down. We're probably also getting towards the end of the workday, so I want to make sure that everything is wiped down a bit and try to get it ready so that there's not too much to clean when closing time comes. To be honest with you, when closing time comes, I'm really interested in going home or at least getting out. So, no matter how much I love the place and I love being there, when the day is over, the day is over. You know what I mean? All right. Where are we now? Good. We're almost there. Coming down to the final wire, getting the cup ready. No, I guess not. Oh, just cleaning up more. Trying to keep things a little bit tidy. All right, here we are. Cup time. And that's going to finish the brew off. There we are. Now you can hear the timer kicking off. 3 minutes are up. Time to place the Avid Clever on top of the cup and let the coffee flow through. So as you can see, I give it a little gap for the air to flow through for air displacement. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, there it is, another episode of Cafe Verite. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate you spending this time with us, or with me. And we're going to continue on with more videos from the Cafe Verite series. It's just been a lot of fun. I really enjoy sitting here talking to you and sharing our thoughts and opinions on coffee. And of course, as always, drop your comments down below. Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. If you have ideas for future shows or things you'd like to see, or things, more importantly, what are you trying to learn in coffee? Let us know. See you next time.